All right, welcome to the Raptors Weekly Extra podcast for the week of April 1st. It's already April, which means playoffs is around the corner, and this is a good time for rest, which we will talk about that soon. But resting currently is Blake Murphy, who has retreated to the warm confines of Florida to take in some still happening Blue Jays spring training baseball, and filling in for Blake is a special guest, a buddy of both mine and Blake's, Mr. Joe Wolfond.
I don't know how special I am, but it's good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure, man. And
big shoes to fill, obviously.
Blake?
Yeah.
Blake's kind of got small feet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. He's like a size 9, I feel like.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd be happy with you putting that information out there.
That's okay, man. It's all right. Sorry, Blake. I know you'll be listening to this on the drive back, probably. Safe drive. All right, enough about Blake. Let's talk about happier things, like the Raptors, for example.
Wow, 50-win Toronto Raptors.
Yes. The Raptors just wrapped up I want to say a blowout, but the final score, they only won by 8. But essentially it was a blowout.
Thanks to the Kirk Heinrich and Mike Muscala-led fourth quarter comeback.
So weird. Kirk Heinrich.
Still plugging.
He's still plugging. He's effective. I feel like he's going to be back in the league next year.
Yeah.
With the Bulls. Always with the Bulls.
Like third now in games played for that franchise?
That's right. It goes Michael, like Artis Gilmore,
Kirk
Heinrich. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, enough about Kirk Heinrich. Yeah, man. Seriously, the Raptors, 50 wins. It was a great victory against the Hawks. Yeah, man. In terms of a potential second round matchup, I guess we'll start here. Are you afraid of the Hawks?
Yes, in the sense that the Raps really have had their number the last couple of years, but on paper they just still read like a not great matchup, and I just feel like when that's the case, reading too much into past results can be a bit of a trap, and they still seem to me like a team that could really exploit a lot of the Raptors' weaknesses, and they've been playing really, really well down the stretch of the season. I think they've lost something like 4 games in their last 20. 2 of those losses have been to the Raps, but it's encouraging for sure that the Raps have been able to play them as tough as they have. But realistically, well, I don't know. I think from what I watched last night,
yeah,
they generated a ton of really good looks and missed a lot of them.
That's the thing. They shot 33 threes, and they did hit 14, but a lot of those came in like the garbage time that we talked about with Kirk Heinrich, which is concerning because you're not really going to expect Al Horford and Kyle Korvers and those kind of people to miss a lot of open threes, but yeah, and I hear you with the matchups thing. It's just so the Hawks play defense a lot like the Bucks now, or like the Bucks used to last year. They overload the ball and then like try to out-rotate the pass.
Yeah. And
the Raptors aren't a good passing team, but like the one thing the Raptors do well is swing it side to side. So that's why they're so good with 2 guards on the court all the time. You have one guard that's either operating out of a pick and roll or just going off a handoff towards the paint. And if that doesn't work, the Raptors are really good. They've gotten really good at just swinging it to the weak side and attacking the other side. And with the defense of the way the Hawks play, where they just overload the strong side like that, the Raptors are going to beat them with the pass. That's why we saw it. Like you tweeted out yesterday, you noted at halftime the Raptors had 16 assists. And that's crazy because the Raptors average 18 per game.
Yeah.
And they had it at halftime, 16. And they ended up with like 20, 27. Meanwhile, I think the Hawks had like 24.
Yeah, no, I think the Hawks have been really good on defense, and the Raptors offensively haven't seemed to struggle with that. That's been a kind of a season-long trend. They've had a lot of luck. Maybe not luck, but they've had a lot of success against bad defense. And I think, honestly, Norman Powell is like really interesting guy. That goes to what you were talking about swinging the ball to the weak side. He's been so good and so decisive, catching ball whether it's in the corner or on the wing, and attacking closeouts, like what or even just like being decisive shooting the ball. That's like really encouraging, and that was a big factor.
It's super great that he's not James Johnson.
Yeah,
and that he will catch the ball and will do something immediately instead of I'll hold it for like 10 seconds, call for Bismack for a screen.
Yeah. I think
James. Poor James.
I think if that, not to look too far ahead, but if that were to be a second round matchup, I think I don't think we'd be seeing a ton of James Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since, I mean, you know what? We'll get to the injuries in a second because the injuries are a little bit less upbeat.
Yeah. In any event, I think in the same way that it doesn't really make sense that the Bulls have beaten the Raptors as consistently as they have, often just by like hitting a lot of ridiculous shots, a lot of ridiculous late shot clock,
McDermott.
Aaron Brooks pull-ups, and like Doug McDermott like deep threes. It doesn't really make sense that the Raptors defense has held up as well as it has against the Hawks, and a lot of those misses that I saw last night, I think are shots that you can expect to not be misses.
That's true. But the Hawks have been like weirdly disappointing offensively all season, right?
True. But they've been better in the last couple weeks.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of segueing back into the bigger picture. I mean, I'm not that concerned about that playoff matchup, mostly because I feel like they have nobody to stop DeMar DeRozan. Kent Bazemore has the physical profile to do it, but he's like really hyperactive, and he'll just foul DeRozan, I feel like. And DeRozan obviously is best when he gets to the line. And then you got Thabo, who's like a little bit too small. And he's really lost a step defensively, I find.
Yeah.
Especially the times I've watched the Hawks this year, which is like probably 10 games. But, yeah, man, I'm not super concerned with the matchup. I'm more concerned about things like Kyle Lowry's injury, but we'll talk about it in a sec. So, yeah, just drawing it back to the big picture, man, the Raptors have finally won 50 games. And if depending on how you want to sort out Charlotte's basketball history, if you want to count the Bobcats era as its own era, then I guess they haven't won 50 games, but the Raptors...
They haven't won 45 games. That's...
Well, they're going to do it this year, maybe.
It's a not great era.
They need to win 5 of their last 7 games, I think, to get to 45.
No, they're at 43 already.
They're 43?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you do love the Hornets more than anyone else at the office. But, yeah, so basically, essentially, the Raptors were like the last team yet to hit the 50-win mark. 21 years into the franchise's existence, the Raptors have finally won 50 wins. I don't know, man. I mean, just like let's just have a fun discussion about how great the Raptors are for a quick second before we go back to more rational topics. Like what were some of your like favorite memories or wins or moments from this season so far?
I think that win over the Cavs has to stand kind of head and shoulders.
Which one? There's 2. We beat LeBron twice.
That's true.
After never beating LeBron.
They were both fantastic. I'd put those both in the top 5. But the Kyle Lowry game.
Step back.
That's probably the second best individual performance I've seen from a Raptor in a game. The first being that Vince Carter 50-point game in the second round against the Sixers. That's 14 years ago now?
Yeah.
15 years ago now? But it was a close second, and that was just like exhilarating, really, start to finish. From just kind of falling back early and clawing our way back into the game, falling behind again, and then that like torrid finishing stretch. I don't know. That's as far as regular season Raptor games, and I even said going into that game that was going to be the biggest regular season game in franchise history, and so the fact that it delivered in the way that it did, obviously would be pretty tough to top. But there have been a lot of unbelievable games this season. Even both those Warriors games, especially the one.
Oh my God.
Especially the one at home.
I lost my mind when they called an offensive foul on Corey Joseph going for that rebound.
Yeah.
It waved off a putback. The Raptors would have been down, I think, 1, and instead they went the other way for free throws.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the way the Warriors have closed games this year, though, I'm not entirely sure would have made a difference.
A solid 46.7 net rating in crunch time. That is insane. 46.7.
To be fair, the Raptors have also been really, really good in
true.
crunch time situations this year, which is a nice change, I think, from past years.
We're like a human 10 points per 100 possession plus. But
but that home game, another unbelievable Kyle Lowry.
Lowry, 44.
41 points that game, I think. It's just pretty awesome to watch him get up for big games in the way that he does. And that gives me a lot of hope for what he's going to be able to do if, fingers crossed, he's healthy come playoff time.
Come to finals, you mean? Against these same Warriors.
Exactly.
Now we're going too far.
But like between him and Curry that game, and just the game going down to the wire, and like the number of lead changes in the fourth quarter, that game was unbelievable to watch.
Especially since they shelled us in like the first half, right? They went up something like 20 points, and I think we've all heard the stat now. I think the Warriors are something like 100. They've won their last like 110 games when they've had a 15-point lead and 8-point during the game. They just never blow the entire lead, but the Raptors were so close. Twice were so close.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. I mean, look, not this OKC game. The first OKC game that I think pushed them to 5-0. Second out of a back-to-back in OKC after winning in Dallas.
That was scoring like 12 points in the first quarter too.
Yep.
Like, really looked horrible. Like they were just gonna, take a schedule L and move on, and then kind of out of nowhere, they came through. And Durant was like weirdly passive in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, that was the start of OKC's fourth quarter troubles right there. DeMarre Carroll, he was there. We'll talk about DeMarre Carroll.
He was. That was an unbelievable win. The win over the Spurs was huge, even though it was like a really weird night for the Spurs.
Again, James Johnson, Spur killer.
Yeah.
The Warriors should have traded for James Johnson.
DeRozan was just like hitting everything that night, and it was an off night for Kawhi, who I think was dealing with like a stomach bug or something, but he wasn't all the way there. But still, the Spurs had lost maybe like 4 games at that point in the season. That was a huge, huge win to get, regardless of the condition they were in. There have been a ton of great wins. I think that's maybe the most enjoyable thing about this team. Is just how many quality wins they put together against the rest of the league's best. And, in like past couple of years where we've flirted with, being a good team and flirted with 50 wins, it just felt...
Yeah, I think one of the bigger things also to remember is that it's nice to see the Raptors progress to this point. I mean, we saw the Rudy Gay trade and how that kind of unexpectedly turned the whole franchise around. It turned Kyle Lowry... Well, it gave the ball to Kyle Lowry, and then it turned him into like an actual like superstar. Where we talked about in the last podcast how he's like a top 5 MVP candidate, which is nuts. Which is absolutely totally nuts. Insane. We traded Steven Adams, ended up trading Steven Adams for him, and and along the way, a lot of good moves were made. Masai Ujiri, he's really done a great job of building around the margins. You see pieces like Bismack Baum for $2 million. That's one of the best signings of the offseason. Corey Joseph, that was a great signing. A lot of things like this. But I think the one core fixture, central fixture, that's been through this entire process is DeMar DeRozan, who somehow saw the end of the Chris Bosh era. And at that time, he was just like this freaky athletic dude who could only dunk, occasionally miss mid-range shots, but he wasn't encouraged to take those. Jarrett Jack was taking those. He was Jarrett Jacking them up. Oh, Jarrett Jack. God damn it, man. We used to have Jarrett Jack, right? And now, I don't know, we have confident point guards. Now we have Kyle Lowry. We used to have Jarrett Jack. Shout out to Jarrett Jack. Hope you recover from ACL.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, DeRozan's overseeing this whole thing, and they asked DeRozan after the game, what 50 wins means, and he said it means a lot to him because he's been here through the whole process, right? And it's very rewarding to have a player who's come up with the franchise like that, because, I mean, I think you and I are both on the same mind on this, but DeRozan, we were never like fully convinced about DeRozan's star power. I think almost just like how people still probably aren't fully convinced on the Raptors' star power in terms of how well can they actually fare in the playoffs, and that's a fair question, a depressing question that they can't even answer until the playoffs. But
until they do it, that's going to be a question. It's going to be a fair one, I think. But yeah, it's really crazy to think about how good the Raptors have gotten and how they've done it. Like, if you look at where they were 4 seasons ago, it's kind of...
Wait, hold on. Where were they 4 seasons ago? Was that the one where they were trying to tank for Harrison Barnes, and then Ben Uzo had a triple-double, and Solomon Alabi had 11 points and 19 rebounds against Terrence Williams?
The
Nets were still in New Jersey.
Ben Uzo screwed them out of getting Harrison Barnes, basically.
It's the worst triple-double ever, man.
Yeah. I don't really know how much better it would be with Harrison Barnes instead of Terrence Ross right now. Maybe marginally better, but...
We talked about this yesterday. I actually would rather have T.J. Ross than Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, there's a case to be made. I think that he's maybe a better fit.
Yeah, especially going forward, because that contract's going to be ridiculous with Harrison Barnes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm just thinking, like, what kind of draft picks have they had? I mean, a lot of it's just been internal development and really savvy moves around the margins.
Yep.
And it's just rare that you see a team make the kind of just like incremental improvement that the Raptors have made, and they've really just gotten better every season over the last 4 years, without, I mean, really hitting a home run in free agency. I mean, DeMarre Carroll is your big free agent signing in that time.
He's played like 27 games.
Yeah.
Yep.
And aside from that, it's just been Lowry blossoming into an unlikely superstar, DeRozan blossoming into an unlikely, I don't know if you'd call DeRozan a superstar, but like a worthy all-star for sure.
Dude, he's doing 24-4 on above average shooting percentage.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I never thought DeRozan would get to this level.
No.
I called him Corey Maggette forever. Because he was very Corey Maggette-esque, but now he's like, better than Corey Maggette.
Yeah, I think he's probably better than Corey Maggette ever was.
Corey Maggette was a Raptor killer. Do you remember he came with the Warriors one year when Marco Bellinelli was there? And the Warriors used to just drop 130 points on the Raptors, even before they were this good. We're talking Al Harrington, Steven Jackson,
Baron Davis,
Marco Bellinelli, Kalina Azubuike. Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, looking back and looking at that team, it's kind of hard to imagine the Raptors improving any more than they have, over that span. You know, to becoming I think pretty clearly the second best team in the Eastern Conference. Mainly just by developing 2 stars.
Yep.
And then
putting pieces,
filling the gaps around them in a way that has worked out, I think, as well as you could have reasonably expected.
Almost every move has worked out as well as you can reasonably expect.
Yeah.
Even a minor signing like James Johnson, he's had his moments. Like you said, with a guy like James Johnson, you're not really expecting every $2 million per year player to be Bismack Biyombo, but if you can have a high variance guy like James Johnson who can swing you a game against the Spurs, which he's done twice in the last year.
Yeah.
He did it again last year when he led the game with 20 points.
Totally. And even just to be
huge.
there in the event that
Jimmy
Butler is popping off.
Oh, God.
And you need just a big physical wing defender who can make
hold the ball in offense.
make life difficult for him.
That's true. Yeah.
That can be nice to have.
Yep.
And James Johnson's been kind of infuriating this season for a lot of reasons, but I think there may well come a time when we're very grateful that he's on the roster.
That's true.
And Masai Ujiri has just done a flawless job, I think, since taking over. And
Masai's awesome.
and even the moves that Brian Colangelo made before he was deposed have sneakily worked out really well too. We talked about the Raptors trading the pick that became Steven Adams for Kyle Lowry. Brian Colangelo did that.
Brian had the vision to know that, and then he started, and then he didn't object when Jose Calderon started once again over the point guard he brought in.
Well, be that as it may.
Hey, look, a lot of people worse than Kyle Lowry have come off the bench for Jose Calderon.
I think revisionist history has been unkind to Brian Colangelo in a way that it hasn't been entirely warranted.
The Bargs thing is so bad.
He's never going to live that down. He's never going to live down that pick or that contract.
Yeah.
But I think he showed a lot of foresight with the DeRozan contract.
Yep.
And he probably envisioned the Bargnani contract working, the same way. It didn't, but going 1 out of 2 and ending up with, I mean, you've had now like 3 years of DeRozan being either an all-star or a fringe all-star type of player.
Yep.
And he's given us that for 3 years on a cheapo contract.
Yep.
So that's incredibly valuable. And if you look at the Raptors roster right now, the Valanciunas pick, the jury's still out on that one, obviously, but
you're not going to obviously hit home runs with every pick, but he's been a solid player, and I think that's overlooked a lot. A lot of number 5 picks are not solid players.
Yeah. Thomas Robinson.
Oh my God, Thomas Robinson. Wow, you just went right there. I
was
even going to say like an Alex
mind,
Len. Like an Alex Len is similar to Jonas in a lot of ways, but worse in almost everything. Because it's just slightly more nimble, but not actually more useful. Yeah, Jonas has been a starting center on a good team for 3 years now. Like that's valuable. We have a lot of expectations for Jonas, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to use this to talk about the DeRozan thing.
Yeah, so DeRozan's bargain contract that we're talking about is coming up at the end of this season.
Mm-hmm.
I know most Raps fans are very, very aware of that fact.
Yes.
And his contract situation moving forward has been a pretty big talking point this season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, Will, what you think. I know you wrote a piece a couple months back about how DeRozan was almost certainly going to be back in a Raptors uniform.
Yeah.
And that almost certainly means giving him a max contract.
It means that.
With the 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still think that that's the right move for the Raptors?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it goes like this, right? I think the Cavs probably had a similar problem, not a problem, but like with Kevin Love. It's just when you have a star and he's willing to sign for your team, you sign the star, and then that retains an asset. Because as opposed to not signing him and letting him walk for nothing, that's very bad asset management. And it's something that Masai Ujiri has never done in his tenure. So you take DeRozan, especially given the way your franchise is familiar with DeRozan. You know what he's going to give you. You're confident that he's going to be able to sustain his current level of production. And as long as he does that, he's always going to be an asset, always. And in addition to being like a key piece to what you do. So like, let's say the next season goes awry or whatever. We know DeRozan's been a durable player, and we know exactly what DeRozan can provide. And at that point, you can trade DeRozan. And that time, you can probably get assets back. That's why I thought the Hawks were unlikely to trade away Al Horford anyway, because the better play asset-wise would have been to sign him to the 5-year deal this summer, and then if things go south, you can trade Al Horford for assets, and you probably get better assets than you would have at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So.
But I also think that Al Horford thing demonstrated how it's become a little bit more difficult to trade a big contract. I feel like once upon a time, expiring contracts were these huge trade chips that you'd use to just kind of like balance out salary in a trade. And because of like the shortening of NBA contracts, and just the fact that I think, with the cap going up and the amount of cap space that teams are going to have going forward, it's going to be tough. You have a guy on a $25 million a year contract, and that's not going to be super easy to move.
No, that's true.
And
the Lakers always exist. The Nets exist. The Sixers exist.
It's true,
there's
but
always even Boston exists.
True,
you can probably get one of their top picks for them.
Yeah, but then you're talking about needing to take back like some $20 million in salary.
I'm sure Kelly Olynyk's going to get paid $15 million a year this next summer, and then you get Olynyk paired with Jonas and the worst front line ever defensively.
All I'm saying is it's not so easy to construct a trade around a big contract like that, and I don't. DeRozan's been fantastic. He's been a soldier for the franchise for so many years, and he's seen a lot of the lean years, and I'm super happy for him, to have, kind of
don't say but, man.
Put himself in the situation that he has now, with the team being as good as it is. But like, I don't know. It's tough. He's a strange player.
No, he's an imperfect piece
in a lot of ways, and he can look so good, and he can be so frustrating.
Seriously,
and,
just last week against the Celtics.
but even looking at that game we played against Milwaukee when he sat out for rest.
It was 27 assists.
It was kind of hard to notice how not sticky the ball was and how quickly it moved.
That's true.
But
hey, look, even like yesterday's game against the Hawks, like that, he played in that game. The Raptors still had 26 assists, and the Raptors had 27 assists against the Bucks, and the Hawks are a better defense. So I mean, it's possible. I mean, I know what you're saying. But even the ball sticks in DeRozan's hands, he's really good at scoring now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the bigger problem is probably like at the other end of the floor, where he, for the better part of a month or maybe longer I think he's been just lazy and inattentive and
saving energy,
bad,
man.
like objectively not good
at
the defensive end. And
all right,
that's
all right, look,
an issue.
That's the thing is with DeRozan, like he is an imperfect piece. I hear what you're saying, but I think in terms of an asset play, I think keeping him makes so much more sense than letting him go, unless you have some kind of killer alternative. Like if you're somehow able to sign Nick Batum and some other great piece like a power forward in one fell swoop, then yeah, maybe like you just say sorry DeRozan.
What if it was just Nick Batum though?
I don't know. It's tricky. It's tricky. I mean, like, Nick Batum fits theoretically a lot better, but he doesn't have the sterling health record that DeRozan has. And,
True.
DeRozan and Lowry have become great friends, and you're not going to sign someone to a $125 million contract just because they're friends, but it matters, man. It does matter. And if things go south next year,
I mean,
what are you going to do with Lowry at that
those
point?
Those guys loved Rudy Gay,
Those guys did love Rudy Gay.
They talked glowingly about Rudy Gay, and they were all great.
Isn't Rudy Gay like Carter Lowry's like godfather?
I don't know.
Okay.
but regardless, I mean, moving Rudy Gay was sort of what jump-started this whole era.
All right, but the thing was the Rudy Gay, like, he was clearly not working with him and DeRozan at the same time. So yeah. It's a question. It's a question.
I just think I think that's it's going to be really interesting.
All right, that's Joey _double_U. All right, send your hate, DeRozan haters.
There's no hate.
Joey
no hate.
_double_U.
I just think the Raptors are in a really interesting spot, and probably like how the playoff run goes will dictate how that goes. But there isn't really a player in the NBA like DeRozan who thrives in the way that he thrives.
Buck the trend, man. Buck the trend.
Yeah. I mean, if the whole league is moving one way, you always have to kind of find that inefficiency. So maybe the inefficiency is long pull-up twos and pump fakes that get you to the free throw line time and time again.
You want it to be one way, but it's the other way with DeRozan. But, the other way's been pretty good with DeRozan these days.
Absolutely.
All right, man, let's just quickly touch on the injuries. So Kyle Lowry, his elbow, he got it drained after Monday's game. He's been abysmal shooting-wise. You saw against the Hawks, obviously Lowry's like such a smart player. He's still able to be effective, without his shot dropping. He started something like, 0 of 8, and then finished 4 of 16 from the field. 4 of 19? Yeah. So, yeah, man, it's worrisome. He wasn't finishing well around the hoop at all, which is a bit strange because that's not... You could probably use your offhand to finish around the hoop. But, I don't know. He still found ways to be effective.
So effective.
He's just... Obviously, having just Lowry on the court is so imperative. But, like, I think we're playing with fire a little bit when he's getting his elbow drained after having bursitis in this elbow, and then... You play him 40 minutes, man. And it was a 22-point blowout. I know the Hawks made a run. They probably didn't intend to play him that many minutes, but, like, man, it's worrisome, that's all.
It is. Just play devil's advocate, though. Like, if it's bursitis in his elbow, I don't think the number of minutes he plays really affects that too much.
That's true.
Right?
I'm pretty risk-averse.
I mean, like maybe taking 19 shots doesn't help that much. But Lowry also said that he didn't think... Now, this is Lowry talking. I don't know if that's him just speculating or him just saying this because he wants to play, or him actually relaying that information from a doctor. But he said that the rest wasn't going to help. it's different, than it being sort of like a knee issue or like a back issue.
Yeah.
Where playing heavy minutes is, blatantly going to exacerbate it. Something like this, I don't know. Obviously, like his workload throughout the entire season has been a bit of an ongoing concern, but he showed no signs of breaking down otherwise, and this is just kind of a freak injury where he fell on his elbow.
Twice against the Magic. I really hate the Magic.
So, yeah.
God, their whole team of Kirk Heinrich. They're going to get Kirk Heinrich. They should. He's really Scott Brooks 2.0 without the 30 seconds.
Skiles would absolutely love him.
Skiles, yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. Yeah, for sure.
But the fact that he has an elbow injury right now is not really the result of him playing a lot of minutes this season.
Yeah, I hear you.
And the fact is, like, without Lowry, the Raptors are not that good.
The Raptors are not good without Lowry. It's just a fact. We're like a 500 team.
So fine, I get that these games don't really matter that much.
Yeah.
But they do in a way. Like I think maybe momentum is a little bit overrated, but I think it's important to win games down the stretch and have like sort of a winning feeling in the locker room when the games do start to matter. And
okay, I'll posit it this way. Yeah, the Raptors still have a couple significant games left on the schedule. The Grizzlies, the Spurs, things like this. The last 3 games of the season are against the Knicks, the Nets, and the Sixers. Do you play Lowry in those 3 games?
I think just for the sake of maybe like getting him some run and keeping him sharp, you maybe play him in one of those games.
Maybe the final game?
Yeah, maybe the final game. Maybe it's just in the first half.
Okay.
I think... I don't know. Like, I think rust can be a real thing, and I don't know that sitting him out each of the last 3 games is necessarily going to be beneficial, but definitely I think that's going to be an ideal time to get him some rest.
Beautiful runway. I'm looking forward to seeing like 45 minutes of DeLon Wright and Norman Powell.
Totally.
Seriously, it'll be fun. Like it'll be the Raptors 9-5 versus the Sixers.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure who's going to win that one.
But just if Lowry was 4 of 19 last night, and that was a game we were leading by 22 going into the fourth quarter. And I still believe that if he doesn't play in that game, the Raptors lose.
Yeah, no, definitely.
He impacts the game in so many different ways, and he is so good at like putting the ball in the right place.
Oh my
time
God.
after time.
Remember that one pass in like the third quarter?
These wraparound passes
to
that he makes
my God.
on the driving kicks are like...
It's like 5 seconds off on the clock. He somehow managed to drive all the way into the paint from the perimeter.
There were
like
3 bodies that collapsed on him, and he's done that a few times this season, where you lose sight of the ball because he's been like collapsed upon, and then somehow it just shoots out like right into a shooter's hand.
Yeah. He did something with a similar pass with Patrick Patterson a couple games back. I can't remember when, but it's one of those game note things that I did.
He just has such a good understanding, I think, of the floor and
he's
where everyone is on the
he's
floor.
Actually like that's the thing.
Very intelligent.
It's hard to
player.
explain Kyle Lowry's importance to people who are just casual fans, but it's just like he's an incredibly intuitive player.
Yeah. And
even though physically he's not imposing by any means, he's able to find gaps. And it's not like he has like a go-to thing like Lowry, like someone like Steph Curry. Like obviously, you're always terrified of the shot. With Lowry, you're not really sure what to be terrified of. He's just gonna outsmart you. He's gonna like pick your pocket at some point. He's gonna make all like 6 or 7 important help defense rotations.
Yeah.
When he's like fully engaged, and he's gonna be able to. The way he gets to those 22 points a game that he averages, he kind of just finesses them. And it's always an efficient 22 points until recently with the elbow thing. So, yeah, I think it's just some rest. DeMarre Carroll had a lot of rest.
Yes.
Said he's going to come back soon. Let's just quickly... Well, we've talked, honestly, about DeMarre Carroll's injury every week for the last, 2 months. So he says he's hoping to come back before the end of the regular season, get some games under his belt. Again, those 3 games at the end of the season makes for a really nice runway. Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have any inside information on DeMarre Carroll in terms of his knee and anything like that. He'll come back whenever, but what role do you envision him? Would you start DeMarre Carroll in the first game of the playoffs?
As opposed to Norman Powell?
Yes.
That's the alternative, I guess, because
or James Johnson, who knows?
I feel like at this point,
we might start Tyler Hansbrough randomly. Good times.
Dwayne Casey has been...
He loves
very averse to breaking up that bench mob.
Yeah. Yes.
He's shown kind of an unwillingness to start Patterson, obviously, and to start Terrence Ross, right? Like I think that's the reason that Norman Powell. I know Ross was injured for a few games, but even before that, Powell was starting, while Ross continued to come off the bench. So, gosh, I really don't know. I think a lot of it just depends on how he looks. If he manages to get into a game or two before the regular season ends, it's going to depend how he looks, how he's moving.
Yeah.
Which
is important for a high activity guy like him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the most important.
Yeah.
If he's not getting any burst, it's just like you remember how he looked the last couple of games before he finally decided to shut it down and have surgery.
Yeah.
He wasn't moving that well. He wasn't changing direction that well, and he didn't look like the player that the Raptors had signed.
That's true.
Spent $15 million to sign in the offseason.
I think cautious optimism is probably the best case because to approach the thing, because the Raptors, as they said, like Kyle Lowry recently said, look, we've made it this far without him. It'd be great to have him back, but we've proven to be a capable team even without him, right? And it wasn't trying to exclude him or anything. It's just that's just facts, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think whatever you get,
be okay.
Yeah, I think whatever you get from him at this point is kind of a bonus.
Yeah. We have 2 Norman Powells now.
Yeah.
That's what the crazy called Norman Powell. He said he was like a human gravy, which sounds horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't
sound
like anything that I want in my life.
Yeah, well.
But it would be nice. It would be nice to get, 15 or 20 minutes of really strong DeMarre Carroll play. I think I'd be super happy with that.
Honestly, I'm cool with just if he took James Johnson's minutes.
Yeah.
Right, and
James Johnson's non-existent minutes right now.
But hashtag mood. Overlooked, or whatever he said. But it's a little bit it's concerning because people coming from arthroscopic knee surgery, it does take them a long time because it takes you off your feet. He looked to be in good shape, and he was talking with the assistants, and there were throughout the broadcast you saw many instances of Rex Kalamian and Andy Greer talking with DeMarre Carroll, sort of getting him back to game speed in terms of reading the game and stuff. Obviously he's been watching the games, and he's probably received a lot of coaching aside from the game itself, but it's also easy. Go back and look at Chandler Parsons' first month after getting knee surgery. It took him a while, man. It took him a while. Even someone like Danilo Gallinari, and it was a different thing with him because his surgeon botched the surgery. It doesn't look to be the case in this case with DeMarre Carroll, but still,
as far as we know,
it's as far as we know. But again, it takes a while for people to come back from knee surgery itself, and so I think we got to temper our expectations because it's not like he's going to come back and play 36 minutes again. But I don't think the Raptors at this point necessarily need that. And the Raptors are in no position to really use the first round of the playoffs as a runway. We're not like the Cavaliers where it's a guaranteed first round win, but you could potentially see that in the case. But anyway, let's just I don't know, injuries, whatever. He'll come back when he comes back. And all right, man, we're gonna move really quickly to this mini segment that I stole from the Dunc'd podcast with Nate Duncan, who he stole the segment, I guess, from Nate Silver, the 538 guy.
We're getting it third hand here.
Yeah, the signal and the noise. So I'm just going to present to you 3 stats, and then you're going to tell me what you think. If it's signal, which means it's true, or if it's noise in terms of statistical variation. So the first one, the Raptors are second worst in the league in 3-point percentage allowed at 37.6. Yeah. Is the Raptors' defense, 3-point defense, this concerning?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know if it's that concerning, as in it's the 29th worst in the league. I think the important thing to keep in mind there is that volume is, in a lot of cases, just as important, or sometimes more important, in terms of its predictive value, as actual shooting percentage. And the Raptors have done quite a good job of limiting the volume of opponents' three-pointers. I think they're something like 12th in the league in 3-point attempts allowed per game. So on the one hand, they are doing like a pretty good job of preventing teams from shooting threes and kind of forcing them to get their points elsewhere. On the other hand, when they are giving up those 3-point looks, they're like pretty tasty 3-point looks. And so like this is according to NBA Savant, they're 10th from the bottom in the NBA in terms of average defender distance on 3-pointers. So yeah, that's not great. And like the teams below them are like generally pretty poor defensive teams. The teams below them are the Lakers, the Nets, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Bucks, the Mavs, the Hornets, the Suns, and the Sixers. So like not like great defensive teams. And I mean, you know, you don't have to see those stats to know. You can watch the games and see that the Raptors, like, they struggle sometimes with their rotations, and I think they struggle in particular when they get scrambled. Like, whether it's giving up an offensive rebound or whether it's being in transition, they're slow to pick up shooters, and they concede a lot of open threes that way.
But they are a good defensive rebounding team. They're a great defensive rebounding team.
Definitely. And
I think actually a lot of it is Louis Scola. I mean, it always comes back to Scola, but he's just slow. That's it, right? And when he closes out, he doesn't have long arms, and he's slow. He's really slow.
Yeah, for sure.
But Louis Scola, he's giving up something like, opponents are shooting something like 42, 43% on threes, and league average for power forwards at least, it's like about 35. So it's like a significant gap. The same gap exists for DeMar DeRozan, and that one's a little bit harder to explain, but although I feel like when DeRozan's fully engaged, he's okay too. But again, DeRozan plays a huge amount of minutes.
He's also not super long, right? Like
no, he's not. He's not really going to block your three.
No.
Except, I think he did recently against Paul George. Remember that game against the Pacers overtime?
Yeah, that was he had a like pretty strong defensive showing.
He better had he was good because he shot like 7 of 27 from the field. But regardless, Paul George is a good defender too.
I do think that's a concern. And the Raptors defense otherwise has been really good. Like they don't allow they are like
they're top 10 in every points in the paint.
They don't allow a lot of points in the paint. And they're able to force a lot of like 2-point shots from like not the restricted area, which is always a really good thing. And I think honestly, defensive rebounding, they're one of the best teams in the league.
Bismack Biyombo has the second highest block percentage in the league next to Hassan Whiteside. It's nuts.
Yeah, and he's also been like just a Herculean defensive rebounder this year.
Oh yeah.
So I think a lot of encouraging stuff about the Raptors defense, and that's really like the biggest smudge I think right now, and that's why a team like the Atlanta Hawks still scares me as a potential playoff matchup, because they move the ball around the perimeter really, really well.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
all right, next one. Patterson's on-off, so it's at 12.7 points, but he's plus 12.7 points per 100 possessions, according to Basketball Reference. To give you a context of that, that's higher than Kevin Durant. That's like about a point less than LeBron. It's more than Kyle Lowry. It's crazy because obviously Patterson is not necessarily a star player in any means.
Depends who you ask.
If you ask Louis Scola, then yes, he is. But man. So Patterson's on-off. Is it signal in terms of, is he like secretly like a star, or is it like noise? As in like, I don't know, Louis Scola. He comes off the bench for Louis Scola or something like that. I don't mean to kill Scola this much. Scola's had a really good shooting month.
He's also Scola's just given us, I think, more than we could have even reasonably expected.
Exactly. I don't want to shit on Scola.
But I don't think I have any choice but to say that's noise, because that is a ridiculous split. So I don't mean that to say that Patterson isn't good. I think Patterson's really good.
Yeah.
And I think there's a case to be made that he's been the third best player on the Raptors this season.
That's a hot take.
Well,
I agree with you.
In terms of just like consistency night to night. And he's become like a little bit in the way that I see Lowry, in the sense that you don't even really pay attention to whether he is hitting shots.
Yeah.
And it's like you'll watch him and just see a player like impacting the game in so many different ways and like having a fantastic game, and like only later maybe you'll look at the box score and realize he shot 1 of 6. He's just capable of changing the game in so many ways other than scoring points, and he's still able to score points. I mean, he's still able to like
his drive game's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, early in the season
he was horrible.
Like any time he put the ball on the floor, something bad would happen.
Yes,
and it's really amazing. For one thing, that he's improved as much as he has, like just in season, at like controlling those drives a little bit and like knowing what to do with the ball after he's attacked a closeout and put it on the floor. And
defensively,
and like defensively, I don't really know where that came from, right? Like
it's just over the years, I guess he's developed. Yeah, no, Patterson, like
there's
a lot of signal in
assignments.
that.
Like
exactly. There's a lot of signal in that, I think.
There is, but ultimately that split is insane, and I think that's noisy. In large part because he's playing behind Scola.
Yeah.
And like Scola has just
he plays against Benjunas.
You're saying you feel bad ragging on him, but it's not his fault. Like,
no, it's
he's not.
He plays so much against starters. Scola is not a guy.
He's not a starting power forward.
Exactly.
So
Scola is just like, you come out the game, hopefully he gives you something quick, and then if he doesn't, whatever, you just adjust and you shaft him on the bench. That's essentially Scola's role right there. There's something posited by Zerar in his podcast where he said, like, Scola is just like, he's really well prepared for games. So like sometimes early in the game you see him like run out in transition and beat other teams down the court because he's just like ready to go. And is his 3-pointer going to drop sometimes? If it does, that's a huge bonus. Like Scola is gravy. So many players on this team are just gravy players. All right.
Yeah, you cannot stop this gravy train.
No, you can't. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Raptors.
Another thing.
Oh man. Yeah, sorry. Another thing.
So it's there's noise because he's playing behind Scola, and also because he's getting a lot of run against opposing bench units. Yeah. But Patterson's been awesome. Like, he's been so good, and
I wish he was better. Had better taste in movies. But anyway, regardless, he's a big movie buff.
What taste in movies does he have?
I saw like the most recent open gym where he took them all to see like some superhero movie, and I was just like, come on, man! I thought you were gonna like take him to TIFF and like, I don't know, see some like French film or like, I don't know, a Chinese flick, something like that. All right. Patterson, he's been awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Super quick. DeMar DeRozan is shooting 34.1% from deep this year.
Whoa.
That's pretty crazy considering he's never cracked 30%.
He cracked 30% once.
He like peaked over 30%.
At like 30.5%, yeah.
And you saw against the Hawks, he hit 3 threes. One, he came off a screen and hit a shot like a regular shooting guard. Yeah. Oh my god. Amazing. Yeah, man. Do you think this is real? Like, do you think he's made significant improvements in his 3-point shot? He's good in the corners.
He's always been good in the corner. Like, he's always been like close to 40% from 3 when he's shooting from the corner. I think the issue is there's no it doesn't really make sense for the Raptors to draw plays where they're getting him 3-pointers in the corner because the ball is in his hands so much, and they rely on him to create for others so much.
Exactly.
And like you were talking about, like having floor balance and being able to swing the ball like from one side of the floor to the other. Like, he's the guy that makes that possible, and that doesn't work if he's parked in the corner waiting to take a pass. So,
it's gravy again. His 3-point shooting is gravy.
So, yeah, like he's been good from the corner, but like it's tough to like manufacture those looks for him and also like maintain the floor balance that makes the Raptors offense as good as it is.
That's a good point. I think the big thing with DeRozan's 3-point shooting is the only thing I would like to see him develop is because he has the ball in his hand so much. If he's able to like pull up off pick and rolls, I'm not saying he has to like Steph Curry it up from 35 feet, but like if he could occasionally, like if that threat even exists where like they have to go over him on screens, the defense is toast. There's no way to defend DeMar DeRozan if you're gonna like go over the screen on him.
I think that we're a long way from defenses going over screens against DeMar DeRozan. Like
that's the only like 3-point shooting that like I really want to see significant out of him. I think the corner 3-point shooting, like you said, it doesn't make sense to keep him in the corner. It just doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But if he plays with occasionally with like those 3-guard lineups with Corey Joseph out there, you can have Corey Joseph on the other side of the floor, and then if you can have DeRozan as a kickout option, then you rely a lot less on Terrence Ross.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's hard to ignore that he's made improvements.
Yes,
he's more confident shooting the three. He's just stepping into that shot in a way that I think.
It looks like it takes his whole body to get this ball to the 3-point line, though. Like,
I know, which is weird, just because of how dependent on jump shots his game is as a whole.
Exactly, yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's a lot of noise in that 34%. The sample is relatively small. He's a 28% 3-point shooter for his career.
Yeah, true.
So I wouldn't read a ton into that, especially because his shooting percentage on long twos is pretty much in line with his career averages. So
yeah, okay.
I think he's expanded his range a bit, but I would be wary of calling him a 34% 3-point shooter. At this point.
True. All right, man. Yeah, that's Signal and the Noise, man. Check out that book by Nate Silver. That's a really good book. But yeah, we'll probably do it going forward as a recurring segment. A classic recurring segment, a staple of all podcasts nowadays. We asked for questions on the Raptors Republic account, and you guys are so kind to fill us in. If you do ever want to ask us a question, please do so. I'm at William_Lou, and Joe Wolfond is at Joe_Joey _ double U, the 2 words instead of just the W. He's a wordsman like that. But yeah, we're happy to answer your questions at any time. Just hit us up with a numb teeth question about DeMar DeRozan's injury or something. Anyway, cool. Let's get to the questions. First up from James Gleason. How awesome is Norman Powell? Very awesome. I think we covered Norman Powell enough.
Yeah, I can't. He's been, of all the pleasant surprises in this pleasantly surprising Raptors season, I don't know if he's the one. There have honestly been so many, from just Lowry bouncing back to the end of season debacle last year to Patterson becoming a player who's capable of guarding Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James.
Oh, by the way, going back to the great game segment, Corey Joseph hitting that corner 3 to beat the Wizards was amazing, man.
That was fantastic.
That's crazy that we forgot that.
That was a terrible game, though.
It was a horrible game, but they set up that play so well. For some reason, Randy Whitman was like, "Oh, Kyle Lowry's just standing in at the other side of the court.
Let's have
John
just
Wall 4-on-4 instead."
That was a great moment, but a bad game.
Great play call there.
But anyway, he's up there as far as pleasant surprises this season,
for sure.
And he's made the whole...
Dude, he was good in Summer League, too. That's the thing. We've been talking about Norman Powell coming up forever.
For sure. And so, on top of getting that Clippers pick for Grievous Vasquez, we got Norman Powell.
And the cap space to sign Corey Joseph. And, not that I wish any ill will on Grievous Vasquez. He was great for the Raptors. He's played 20 games this season.
Yeah. That
was a ridiculous trade. Yeah. One of the many ways Masai Ujiri has fleeced teams in the past. Super quick. Norman Powell, an NBA comp going forward. Just give me a quick one.
Jeez.
Make sure to keep it racial appropriate. All right. Cannot compare him to a white guy. You can't say he's like a Kyle Korver. He clearly is not like a Kyle Korver.
Not like a Kyle Korver. I might need a second to think about that.
A lot of people have been saying Russell Westbrook, which is nuts. Guys, stop, okay? He did one crossover and dunked. That's not Russell Westbrook.
A homeless man's Russell Westbrook, and that's probably being
super
kind.
Homeless. Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. Does he need to have an NBA comp? I'm sure there is one.
Do you see Avery Bradley in him a little bit? Avery Bradley's gotten a lot better in spot up shooting.
True.
He's coming out on screens and stuff. And Norman Powell's not at that stage, but
Avery Bradley's a really good shooter. I don't know.
He's developed into one though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know that Powell will ever be that kind of a shooter, but I also think that Powell's maybe a little bit more explosive.
Yeah, he is.
He's
long. He's bigger. He's bigger than him.
Super fast.
Yes.
That in the open court, and I didn't even realize how fast he was, but
Dennis Schroeder didn't realize how fast. Dennis Schroeder is one of the quickest players in the league. Crossed them up.
That's really hard to do. To be going full speed and cross a guy up and basically not break stride and just keep going to the I don't know, I was super impressed. Great open court speed and super explosive player. I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't think of an NBA comp off the top of my head, but He's a player, and I think
he's
gonna be an NBA player for a long time. So
I want to see like a Trevor Ariza type path for him going forward.
True.
He's got more handles than Trevor Ariza.
Yeah, I don't know if he's quite as long as Trevor Ariza though.
All right, from Anthony Doyle, can you think of one good reason why Lowry played 40 minutes last night? No. There just isn't one. I mean, the Hawks were making a comeback, but that's it.
But I'm pretty sure he played the entire fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So like I said before, I don't think the Raptors win that game if Kyle Lowry doesn't play. I don't see why, up 22 points, he's out there to start the fourth quarter.
That's like typically how they would start the rotation, but still, I
if you start the fourth quarter with Lowry on the bench and the Hawks whittle the lead down to 8 points, then I think you can justify putting him back in the game. But to put him in the game to start the fourth when you're up 22 points and he's nursing an injury is kind of insane.
Let Norman Powell shine. Let him play point guard. No, let's not do that.
But was DeLon Wright dressed last night?
No, he was just naked in the locker room.
Whatever. Like
he probably was
James
dressed.
Johnson can play a little point. Like,
oh God, no! Come on. All right,
I'm just saying, you're up
rotation-wise, that's what he was supposed to be.
And yeah, but that's dumb. That's a dumb way to operate.
My thinking was probably Dwayne Casey was like, all right, we'll have Lowry out there, we have the super bench unit, we'll just murk them, and then we'll be up.
They were murked. They were already murked.
They were already murked. Yeah, no, just seriously, man, lower Lowry's minutes, but we're getting there. All right, from Shankar Savanathan. Man, I'm not good at reading these names. Powell is the new sixth god. How does this impact JJ and the Blouse? It's a matchup thing, man. If you get a bigger wing, like Norman Powell still can't handle that. But essentially, you're probably going to want Powell in there. Man, a lot of people from Norm questions. Okay, from Josh Prem, from at the Hive and also at Raptors Public. What do you think of Norm's ceiling based on what you've seen this season? Russell Westbrook, apparently. If you cross over someone and dunk, you are Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. No, I like the Ariza comp. I think that's like a decent ceiling for him.
That's the thing with Ariza too. He's like now, obviously he's a veteran. He's been like 11 years, but like he's able to play with like such calm and poise that like he only needs to use his athleticism occasionally. Mm-hmm. Right now, Norman Powell's still doing everything 100% speed, which is good. Actually, reminds me a little bit of Kyle Lowry. In that sense, when he was like a rookie, he was literally just like a speeding bullet to the basket all the time.
But that's not like sustainable.
No, it's not, and it's not even necessarily that effective. It's when you learn the nuances of the game. I think you get to that point. I could see a Trevor Ariza type of performance out of him. I don't know, but
definitely.
All right, man. Another question from Shankar. Will the Windsor-Detroit border agents be on high alert to block the northern invasion come Game 3?
Is that assuming that we play the Pistons, or?
Yeah, look, who are currently in the 8th spot, but they're close.
No,
to
they're
the
in 7 now.
They're in 7. Okay,
yeah,
well, them and the Pacers are like right there. So I don't know, man. I was gonna say some mean things. Oh yeah, will the Windsor-Detroit border agents be on high alert to block the northern invasion come Game 3? Shout out to the 401.
Yeah, no, Raptors fans notoriously travel very, very well.
Especially to Detroit.
Those Detroit games.
Yeah, there's going to be a fight.
Get super rowdy.
Another fight at Auckland.
I mean, I'd like to hope for Detroit's sake that they are going to sell out, their playoff tickets, with home fans before traveling Raptor fans can snatch them up. Because I honestly feel bad for them sometimes when it's literally half Raptors fans in that building for like these regular season games.
Dude, there were like only cheers when James Johnson cocked it back and banged on him. Like only cheers were heard.
So, yeah. But yeah, I would imagine that would be there'd be a lot of Torontonians or Windsorites.
Yeah,
rushing that border.
Look, man, Detroit could use some tourism revenue as well.
True enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. The Raptors travel well, and Detroit will be fun because the proximity is going to be great.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of like Detroit fans here in Toronto as well. I don't know how many of them will end up going to the game, but like that mid 2000s Detroit team, like with all those all stars, that created a lot of loyalty, a lot of fans here because at the time the Raptors were just absolutely desolate. So,
for sure.
All right, man. Let's go on to the next one. From White Man can jump. Can. So, everyone predict the game DeMarre Carroll comes back. I say Friday home to the Pacers. I mean, he'll come back when he's healthy. I don't know. I mean, it's probably more likely he'll come back in a home game because you want your doctors ready and available.
Yeah.
But
it's just weird. It's a weird situation because the organization has been just super tight-lipped about it, and they tend to be tight-lipped about that kind of thing. But it was weird because there was like reports that he was ramping up his activity and like doing one-on-one.
Oh, no. He said the other reports.
He said the reports that he had a setback were inaccurate, but
he kind of did though. He had swelling in his knee. That's why he had to go see a doctor.
Yeah.
But I mean, swelling is very normal after surgeries, says Dr. Lou.
Right, but I mean, it's like initially he had like an 8-week timetable which he blew past, and then he was talking about late March, which it's now late March. So there's been, it's like a lot of smoke screens it seems, and. I honestly don't know, obviously, but I would think if he comes back that it's going to be like one of those last couple games, the Sixers and Nets games when dudes are resting, maybe, and that'll give him a chance to maybe work his way back in.
Okay, well that segues nicely into this third question by Shankar. Do we still rest Kyle in the games DeMarre Carroll comes back? I guess he's asking, do you want to build some continuity there?
Yeah, like I was saying, you're looking at those last 3 games, the Knicks, Sixers, and Nets, and I would like to see Lowry rest for 2 of those games.
Yeah, me too.
So if Carroll is back for a couple of those games, I think having them play together for 1 game would be nice.
I think in terms of the system, Corey Joseph and even DeLon Wright have been able to maintain the look of the offense, just not nearly as effective as when Lowry's out there. So, like, in terms of the actual... Because what DeMarre Carroll needs to do is like get attuned with the system again. He can do that even with Lowry out of the game because all the Raptors guards have become pretty attuned to playing this like 2-way driving game.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you necessarily need Lowry for that, but I mean, we'll see DeMarre Carroll. Whatever, man. When he comes back, he'll come back.
Bottom line is this: I feel like the question is getting at is, like Lowry's health is more important than the continuity of like getting him in a game with Carroll before the playoffs. So if they decide he needs to rest for the last 3 games, he needs to rest for the last 3 games. Everything else be damned. Yeah. That is the number 1 priority.
All right.
Period.
Next one comes from, there's no name here, but it's at Moho35. Are we sure Norman Powell can't see any time in the playoffs if DeMarre Carroll comes back healthy? Even if DeMarre Carroll comes back healthy. I don't know, man. Norman Powell might see some time. It depends on how Carroll looks. How many times have we said this in this podcast? Yeah, let's just move on. Oh, another Norman Powell question from EDM Canada. Norman Powell equals 2-way Russell Westbrook. Yes, that's exactly what it is. He's a better version of Russell Westbrook.
Always trust the Toronto fan to just overreact.
Just check the college stats, all right, at UCLA. All right, Norman Powell was putting up like 16, 5, 5, and Russell Westbrook was like 5 points a game. All right, so clearly, no. Okay, from JM. Aside from Lowry and DeRozan, who's the most important player coming into the playoffs for the Raptors?
I doubled down on my comment earlier that Patterson was like had been the 3rd best Raptor this season. But it's weird when you have a question like who's the most important, because I sort of just have this feeling like Patterson is going to be there and like he's going to be steady and he's going to do what he does well. And he's been hitting his shots lately, which is great, but I don't think, I don't know how much we lose if he's like not knocking down his 3-pointers at like 47%, which is what he's been doing for like the last month or so. So, like he's super important, but I feel like there's an expectation that he's just going to keep doing what he's doing, which is just doing all the little things and like being really solid on both sides of the ball. So maybe I lean toward Valanciunas. As like a swing guy,
especially if we match up with Detroit.
Yeah,
he needs to be able to keep drumming off the glass at the minimum.
Yeah, and if we should happen to see Atlanta too, like he's had a lot of success banging down low against their undersized bigs. So I just think he's a big swing guy because his performance can vary so much from one game to the next, and it can make such a difference when he's playing well compared to when he's not. So
All right, next one from LD. Question: if Lowry plays like he did last night, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, is the elbow a huge impediment, big time facilitator? Yes, because okay, if you're gonna make a play, basically, if you're gonna be like someone who drops assists and stuff, you need to either be like a Rajon Rondo type in which you can like make impossible passes, or you need to be able to put the defense in a weak position to help someone else. So that the shooting helps a lot in that.
Yeah, I think if it gets to a point where
he's not a threat to
his
shoot.
Shooting slump is sustained, and guys start like ducking under screens against him and like daring him to shoot, that changes the whole look of the offense, and that changes his ability to facilitate. So still a concern.
Still a concern, man. Still a concern. All right, from Danny Midow, is a muffin considered a dessert? Dessert has two S's, right? Is a muffin considered a desert? I mean,
they're really dry sometimes. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't.
It's a bad dessert.
You can.
No one's ever served muffins as a dessert. Like a muffin is like a breakfast dessert.
I mean, look, if you can have a cheese plate and call that a dessert, then I think you can call pretty much anything.
No,
yeah.
That's a snack. It's just like muffins are snacks.
No, you can go to a restaurant where you get like an assortment of cheeses as a dessert.
All right.
I don't know if you can go to a restaurant where you have an assorted muffins as a dessert, but
that's not a restaurant.
I just think
they don't serve muffins at a restaurant.
Make your own rules. If you want a muffin for dessert, eat a muffin for dessert.
Yeah. Don't let these rules hold you back from life. Okay, I think last one from Alex Delanovich. Who's a worse point guard matchup for Lowry come to playoffs? George Hill or Reggie Jackson?
I think I don't worry too much about either of them, but I'd say George Hill.
Yeah.
He's just like got that length. He's super physical. Is like a strong defender. I mean, and like the physicality, I think, is what worries me more than anything. Just given Lowry's occasionally precarious health situation, but George Hill's tough, man, and
he's a really good player.
Reggie Jackson's maybe the more polished offensive player, but I would dislike the George Hill matchup a little bit more.
See, that's the thing is, I'm not that worried with the Reggie Jackson. Sorry, I'm more worried about the Reggie Jackson matchup as opposed to George Hill, just because Reggie Jackson isn't as good of a shooter, and George Hill is a good spot-up shooter. Like, he was awesome. 3-point shots last year. I'm not totally sure what he's doing this year, but that means Lowry's like less able to leave George Hill, and the Raptors really do need Lowry to make all these help defense rotations and stuff. So you're much more willing to leave Reggie Jackson than you are with George Hill. And also with Reggie Jackson, like, if you're going to be defending the action with the pick and roll with him and Andre Drummond, that's a lot of possessions that you need to involve Lowry in defensively, which might be a good thing, because Lowry's a really good defender. But it's also very exhausting. Whereas George Hill, like, he's like, their third guard in terms of who has the ball the most. Paul George has it, Monte Ellis has it, Rodney Stuckey has it, Solomon Hill has it sometimes. It's weird, man. The Pacers are a weird team. I think they suck, but I don't know why they're good. I guess they have Paul George.
Well, I don't know. Would you call them good though? They're adequate.
Decent.
They're
I said
middle of the pack.
I said they were a lock to finish under 500 coming into the season, and I think they're at 40 wins. So they're a lock to lose their last 5 games. And I mean, I guess that means the Bulls are in. Oh my God, no. Oh God.
The Bulls are, I think, 3 games out of that 7 seed now, or at least 2.5.
2.5
with like 7 to play. So
they do play Detroit though, and if they beat Detroit, I think they might. Well, actually, I gotta look deeper into this, but they might be able to get the tiebreaker as well. That's a bit scary. Yeah. I know they have the tiebreaker over Indiana now.
If only they lost that Pacers.
They should have, man.
That would have buried them for good and all.
Seriously. All right, man. I guess that does it for the questions, and I guess that does it for the podcast. Ran a bit longer than usual, but wanted to give Joe Wolfond his touches,
Thank you.
We'll be hearing more from Joe.
Mood
in
is
Are
adequately
you
utilized.
the James Johnson of this podcast?
Yes. Thanks so much for having me on, man. It's been a pleasure.
For sure. Make sure to follow Joe at Joey_W, the words double and U.
I don't tweet that often, but
he doesn't tweet that often. But
trying to.
If you like tennis, he tweets a lot about tennis.
True.
Say like 30% of your 200 career tweets have come about tennis. But yeah, man, Joey's a fantastic writer. You should check out his work. He writes at The Score as an NBA and also a tennis writer. Good dude. King of Queen West sometimes. No longer. You moved away.
It was actually Dundas West. But
Dundas West.
Yeah.
It's better than Queen West. Queen West is kind of trashy.
Yeah, I agree.
Dundas West is a little
I don't know.
better.
Parkdale's nice.
Yeah.
I dig. I don't know if nice is the right word. Parkdale's fun, though.
It's fun, yeah. It's got a character. All right. And yeah, I'm at William_Lou. Blake will be back next week, probably to talk a lot about the D-League and probably give you a Blue Jays spring training report. We'll preview, I guess, at that point, we'll be pretty close to previewing the actual playoffs. And maybe DeMarre Carroll will be back by then. And maybe the Raptors will be hitting something like 53, 54 wins. So
Imagine that.
Imagine that, yeah. Probably not. We're playing the Spurs and on the road. We're going to lose that one. The Spurs have only won something like 50 games in a row at home. Dating back to last
46.
season. 46.
Yeah.
Jeez. There you go. All right, man.
Never
We're
know.
back next week. See ya.